Hello class, and this is part 2 of the Visual Basic Properties tutorial. We're going to look at doing the code equivalents of some of the properties that we changed in part 1, and also look at a couple new things. Okay, so going to File, starting a new project. Yet again, we're going to go Property, we're going to name this as Properties Tutorial Part 2, making sure we have left-clicked the Windows Form app under Visual Basic, and making sure that our location is the file folder in which we want to be saving our programs. So here we do have, this is where we want our stuff to be. So I'm going to select this folder, click OK. Wait for all the files to load up, and now we have our dialog box here. So the interesting thing is that we're actually going to just change stuff relative to the dialog box itself. I'm not going to add any labels or anything, and I'm not going to use any of the property settings here. Okay, and to actually change stuff about the dialog box, all I have to do is double left click the dialog box in the preview, and now we have the code that pops up opening the dialog box. What do you want the dialog box to do when it loads? Okay, because the dialog box is the thing that's going to pop up when you start your program solution, and you see what the program ends up doing. So first thing I want to go over is the ME code. If I press ME dot, this ME refers to changing something with respect to the dialog box or whatever object is being selected. So me, like if I want to change my clothing, I would change, clothing from t-shirt to hoodie. This would be the equivalent if we said me change the text of my name to whatever. So in order to change the text, you would type in text with a capital T, press space, equals, space again. So after you put the equal sign, what you want to do is put in quotes whatever text you want inside or showing at the top of your program. So here I will put properties program 2.0, and yet again, any text that typically is programmed, you want to put in quotes. So after that, I will press enter to create a new line, and I'm going to change the background color. So I'm going to do capital ME dot capital B, and you see this autofill option happens right here. So I'm going to change back color. If I actually click enter on that, it autofills it in, but I still need to make it equal to something. So then I'm actually going to type in color dot, and this will describe the color that I want to use. So here, as your autofill options again, I'm going to go dark green, and you see that I actually want to pick that olive green that I unfortunately picked last time. I want to pick it this time. So all I can do is actually select it and press enter. And now that's what I end up getting for this text. You also notice that as I'm typing out, we have this red underline here as I'm typing it out. This means that there's an error and that you either haven't typed out the correct function or the correct text associated with the function, or the way you've typed it out is in a weird format. So this is similar to Microsoft Word in the sense of it helps you identify where you've gone wrong. Now once you finish running whichever line of code that you have, then you'll be able to see that red line disappear as I've done here. So here we're going to actually look at changing the size. So instead of dragging the box like we've done before at the very beginning, we can change the size, set to equals, and then do new size. And here we have to put this in brackets, or parentheses, I should say. So we're going to change the size of this, and when you type in numbers here, it's based on the number of pixels. So my current screen display is 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels. So that's your 1080p format, okay, for HD or higher definition screens. So here I just want the box to be larger. I'm going to put 500 by 500, and this means it's a dimension of 500 pixels by 500 pixels. So it's going to be at least half the width of the screen, and then a portion here. Okay. Now, if I'm typing code and I want somebody else to look at this code, specifically an example could be you guys, and you still can't remember what that actual code means, there's something called commenting that you can do. And instead of using double quotes, if you used a single quote, okay, what happens is that line of text turns green. And I can type whatever I want in this section, and what it does is the program does not see it as code, and it allows you to write any notes underneath or above any lines of text to help inform somebody else of what that's supposed to be doing. So after clicking the single quote, I'm going to describe what me.size does. And this function changes the size of the dialog box when program is run. And I can close that. I can close the comment with another quote, or I can just leave it and go to the next line. As long as you start with one quote, it won't continue the commenting. Okay. And now I can type in my new thing. So we got two more things we want to do. Want to change opacity. And opacity is the transparency of the dialog box. So you'll actually be able to see any other programs or anything in the background if you change the opacity of your program to something below 1. 1 being equal to 100%. So if you put 0.5, then that's saying it's 50% see-through. All right, so I'm going to change it to 0.75. And if you forget what this means, I will comment stating what opacity does. So this function changes the opacity of the dialog box. Last thing we're going to do, so always starting with capital M-E dot, do center to screen. And we're going to click on this, left click, press enter, and commenting this in, this function creates the program in the center of your screen. Okay. Now I have this extra line here. Typically you don't want to keep extra lines between code. I mean, it's personal preference, but keeping it nice and neat like this is how I'm going to do it. Okay. Um, so just double checking that to make sure you have all of this stuff here. Maybe not the comments, but at least the ME dot lines of code. And you will see that if we go back to our form one design, or dialog box design, nothing has changed here. And all those changes will be made upon booting or loading the program. So now what I'll do is I'm going to click here. This is the original. This is stuff you would change manually and see a preview with. Now if I press start, you will see the new and improved dialog box. So see how the dimensions have changed to 500 to 500. Property programs text, okay, 2.0. Dark olive green background. When it popped up, it was in center screen. And we have the dark olive background. And you can see, I can actually see through this because I created the opacity to be 75%. Okay, and that's an example of how you would change properties using code. So please feel free to pause these videos at any time to make sure you have the proper code. And if you do run into any issues, my suggestion is either pressing Control Z to undo whatever you've done. So in this case, if I did it here, it would go all the way back, change all the stuff that I've done, okay? Or just start from scratch until you get it. Coding takes a little practice to do, but once you get to the hang of it, it becomes fairly easy to accomplish.